Well, I am super happy to be here with you today, Tom, because I know you and I have had reason to work together on a number of things, and we've been acquainted for roughly a year now, I think, right?
Yep.
So right about a year. So by way of introduction, Tom Pride is the consultant behind Psalm 82 Initiative, and he and his lovely wife, Martha, and a number of people in their network work together to do a few things to educate, to raise awareness, to work with churches to become a safer place, and to directly help victims of abuse who need support in a variety of ways. So I have asked Tom to join us because he is also, he has a theologian's background. He is a minister of the gospel, and he is a passionate advocate for teaching people to use the power that God has given them to always protect and never exploit. And I think that is a really beautiful way to put it. So Tom, one of the things, well, why don't you do a little bit, just tell us for a second, in your words, what you and Martha do, and maybe how you got into this. You have 30 seconds.
Oh, goodness.
Go.
Well, so I was traveling to be a missionary years ago, and I got asked to mediate a church split. And when I was like 22, 23, we were raising funds, and this person calls me and says, you're scheduled to come, but we're in the middle of a church split. Would you help mediate? And I was like, So I called a mentor of mine, and I asked him his opinion, and I fully expected him to say, oh, no, you're not ready for that, And instead, he said, oh, yeah, that's a great idea.
And so, you're like, why'd you throw me under the bus?
Yeah, so I told him I would, as long as he would coach me through it. And so I went up, and he coached me through, said, here's what's going to happen. Here's what these people are going to say. Here's what these people are going to say. Here's all the things you need to do. And he had been a mediator in his denomination. And so he basically walked me through step by step. First, you're going to say these kinds of things to these people. Then you're going to say these kinds of things to these people. And he walked me through all of this. And so I went the next day, and I went to that church and did all the things. I just basically followed his script. And went followed, talked to these people. Okay, now to this one. And I followed the script that my mentor gave me. And lo and behold, the Lord used it, and it went well. And the church ended up not splitting. At least they lost one or two, but they didn't. It wasn't nearly the bloodbath that it could have been. And so I went back to my mentor afterwards, and I was like, how did you know? And what he told me is it's very predictable. And so I started, because of that, people said, I got word of mouth, hey, Tom can help you. And so then I would take my script, and I would just do the same script.
To get that script from you. Not long ago, I actually had a church contact me for situational intervention. They had an abuse situation in their church. They were trying to figure out how to handle it. There were people who wanted to handle it one way over here, people wanted to handle it another way over there. And I was able to step in and help them bring all of those players to the table. And I don't necessarily mean bringing victims and abuser across the table from each other, but those who were in leadership, trying to figure out the best way to make their church a safe place and the best way to take appropriate action given the types of abuse that were taking place while protecting the victims. Because, most of the time pastors and church leaders, they don't have any training in that. They don't have the background in that. So I might want to bum that script off of you. And
well, the funny thing is what ended up happening is I ended up starting consulting with churches for church conflict kind of things. And so in high conflict situations, I would come in and help with that. And then every now and then you start realizing that, hey, well, there's an abuse situation going on here. And so I was also counseling because I'm a pastor, and I was pastoring a church in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so there was those kinds of things that you deal with on a fairly regular basis. But so it was more church conflict. and a little bit of abuse things. And then over the years, we started traveling, doing music and things in churches. And one of the subtext was I was consulting. And as a musician, it's really kind of handy because nobody expects that you study or anything. And so people talk to you more when you're a musician than when you're a theologian.
Right. Sense though.
And so what we found was over the last probably 10 to 15 years, it's kind of gone like this, so that we've done a lot less church consulting things and a lot more domestic violence related things.
Wow.
But somewhere around about 10 years ago, the method that I had been using for the churches, I had developed this method for dealing with church conflict. And I ended up having a situation where we brought somebody to our home to protect them, hide them, and in the middle of all of that, it was kind of like a light bulb went on and said, these are the same thing. They're the same situation. They're the same problem. Just one is manifested in a church context and the other one is manifested in a home context, which shouldn't surprise us because, of course, the qualifications for an elder are able to lead your family well. And so how you are going to lead in your home is exactly what your church is going to look like. And so what you find is that an abusive pastor in the church is very likely an abusive person at home. And so the church conflict and the domestic violence ended up merging into what we ended up calling the four tools. And then we've been involved in some high profile cases over the years. And those kinds of things become really, really important in terms of how to navigate those difficult situations.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, that is incredibly interesting how the circuitous route that we are all led into whatever it is we end up doing that God gives us as a passion. Now, we've had a lot of conversations, and I know, I personally know a number of the women who've been incredibly helped by Psalm 82 Initiative and your ministry, and they speak so highly of the things that you just described, the support that's given and the wisdom and the consulting and counsel and mentorship through those very difficult periods of time.